Okay, here's part 2 for the video lecture installment on the economy, George Washington High School Introduction to Sociology. This is the last slide that you saw. We were talking about the tertiary sector, and again, this is the part of the economy that includes services rather than goods. So with this sector, we're not talking about the raw materials that come from the earth, like wood or petroleum or fish. We're not talking about turning these things into products like wood into furniture, metal into cars. We're talking about the part of the economy that offers services. Again, probably where most of you are heading after college. Healthcare. If you're going, I know some of you are going into nursing. You want to be doctors, surgeons, maybe even teachers, healthcare providers, lawyers. This is all tertiary sector work. And in societies that are more advanced, with technological advancements happening all the time, it frees up and forces more people into this sector of the economy. That's why we have more jobs here and less in the primary and secondary sector. So we've seen some major shifts in our economy just in the last 100 years. So people who are hairstylists, people who work in restaurants, people who drive buses, and we could go on and on and on with potential jobs or tasks that exist within the tertiary or the service sector. I'm going to use tertiary and service sectors interchangeably. They mean the same thing. So the changing structure of work. Work has changed a lot. I could ask you to define work. If we were in class, I would just ask, what does it mean to work? What is that? And most of the responses I get fall within the lines of something like, well, you go somewhere, you put in your hours, and you get a paycheck. Well, that's part of work. Work is an activity that produces something of value for other people. You can work for free. You can cut grass for your parents. You can deliver food to an elderly person. You can volunteer at a homeless shelter. You're not getting paid for those activities necessarily, but it's still work because it's something that produces, or rather, produces something of value for other people. Our definition of work in this country within our economy encompasses a big range of behaviors. It can include childcare. Stay-at-home moms who make no money are considered to be working by definition. Household tasks, informal volunteer work, and of course paid labor are all examples of work. Now, sociologists have been studying work for a long time. There's actually a course in sociology that you could take that deals solely with the sociology of employment or work. And there are good things about paid employment, and there are bad things about paid employment. Some people see a job as just an ends to a mean. A means to an end. I said that backwards. Some people who have jobs are miserable, or they're unhappy, or they just really don't care. They're just there to get a paycheck. We talked about that with public education. We know that we have some teachers, unfortunately, who are just there for the paycheck. That's not a good thing necessarily. So work can drag people into mediocrity, complacency, and then there are some people who live to work. I happen to be the kind of person, a lot of who I am and my identity and what I love and what I believe in kind of shows through my work. I enjoy what I do. I love to teach. I love being a psychologist. I love waiting tables as a server. So my work kind of defines who I am, but that's not necessarily true for everybody. So the masters, I didn't mean to move ahead so quickly, such as Durkheim, says that the division of labor makes people more dependent upon one another. And it's true. In a modern society like we live in, if you work in a company, let's say you work at Panera Bread, I know some of you do, I've seen you there, or maybe you work in a fast food restaurant, maybe it's Chick-fil-A, or maybe it's IHOP, I don't know, you work somewhere. You count on other people around you to get your job done. If you work in a restaurant, if you're serving food, you have to count on the manager to open the building to get everything going in the morning or in the afternoon. You count on the cooks to make your food. You count on the bus person to clean your table, the person who washes dishes. You count on the management to pay the bills so the building can stay there so you can keep your job. Everything ties together, so we become more dependent upon one another. Durkheim also asserts that the move from more primitive to more modern societies has contributed to social stability as well as social integration. Now, Karl Marx, on the other hand, if you remember our discussion of Marx, he sees work as being the primary means by which people seek to fulfill potential. Most people within our culture, whatever job it is they choose to do, or whatever paid employment they choose to pursue, I should say, it's a means to fulfill potential. Some people have lifelong dreams of wanting to be a teacher or a doctor or take over the family business. Whatever it is you think your skill set is going to be, work helps you fulfill that potential. He also asserts that work can be bad. He felt that industrializing societies, and remember Marx was living in Germany during the Industrial Revolution, mid-1800s, and he was seeing all these factories go up like crazy, and people working in these overcrowded cities in just terrible conditions, and being completely taken advantage of by wealthy industrialists. So he saw work as not really being a good thing. He thought it could be very degrading and very dehumanizing for workers. So, and think about it. I mean, I always ask my teenagers in my high school classes, I would ask you the same thing, and have before, have you ever been taken advantage of at work? Have you ever been talked to like you were less than human by a supervisor just because you were a teenager, or just because you were, an entry-level worker? And the answer is probably yes. Is that okay? No, it's not okay. And Marx says that these kinds of things happen at work too, and these are not good things necessarily. Now, contemporary social scientists have suggested a number of ways in which work is central to our everyday lives. First of all, within our culture, within our society, work is the means by which we are expected to pursue the American dream. Now, what is the American dream? Well, we've talked about that before. Is it a comfortable house, kind of a nice car, nice clothes, being able to take some vacations every now and then? Whatever that American dream is to you, work's the way we get there. We go to work, we get a paycheck, we save our money, whatever, and that's how we get what we want. Second, work is means by which we acquire goods, services, and financial security. We're not just handed money or goods or services or financial security. We have to earn that. And the way that we do that within our society is through work and money, paychecks. Work and its subsequent pay, third, help to determine our standard of a living. We already talked about how within our society we have a tendency to rank certain jobs, doctors, lawyers, surgeons. We assign them more status and therefore more pay. So people who aspire to a higher standard of living, want nicer things, may choose to go into these types of jobs or this type of employment so they can make the money to get what they want. The jobs that we hold are major determinants of our position in the overall class system. There's a direct correlation between your employment status and your position in the class system. If you have a job that ranks higher in status, again, doctor, lawyer, CEO, professional athlete, recording artist, we assign those jobs way more status than someone who works in a restaurant as a server or a janitor, or someone who is a greeter at Walmart or whatever. Lower status. And then we pay accordingly. The higher the status, the more the money we give you. The lower the status of the job, the less money you make. And it's going to directly influence where you fall, lower class, middle class, or upper class. We are likely, based on our work status, to be treated with respect, treated as an equal, or dismissed or devalued. I have seen people blindly assign respect to people just because they look like they might be a doctor, or just because they look like they may, hold a high position or have high status. I've seen people treat others with respect just based on nice clothes that they wear. So our work status does help to determine this. If you're an entry-level worker as a teenager, is your supervisor who's been working for the company 40 years and maybe owns the company, is he or she going to treat you like an equal? Probably not. And unfortunately, sometimes we are dismissed or devalued completely based on our work status. Other social scientists have discovered that work serves important sources of self-esteem, social worth, and personal identity. There's a direct correlation between self-esteem, and what we mean by self-esteem, this is how you value or how you evaluate yourself. To have high self-esteem means that you feel good about yourself, that you're happy with your life. To have low self-esteem means that you feel poorly about yourself in some area or dimension, and you tend to think poorly of yourself. Work has a lot to do with that. People who are unemployed or who have low status jobs tend to have lower self-esteem than people who have high status jobs like doctors or lawyers. They tend to have higher self-esteem and feel better about themselves. Social worth. A lot of times when people, maybe they're not making a whole lot of money, but teachers, for example, social workers, they have, they may not make much money, but they feel like they are contributing to society. They feel like what they are doing is valuable and worthwhile. Unfortunately, some who have other jobs, maybe working, like say, in a fast food restaurant, or working in a factory, just doing piecemeal kind of work, feel like maybe what they're doing doesn't matter a whole lot. And then personal identity. Again, a lot of us within our society attach our personal identities, or we understand our personal identities through our jobs. When people ask me what I do, the first thing I say is, well, I'm a teacher. And then I say I'm a psychologist. So I identify myself without even thinking about it through my employment. And we're going to call that the end of the second part for the economy here. Thank you.